We know that education will be the biggest recipient. Will he address why the money is not making the impact it should? And what about the Ingonyama Trust, the missing millions there? Two issues that affect all of us. I'm joined now by political analyst Moeletsi Mbeki to find out what the predictions are for Sona tomorrow. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Let's tackle education. Last year, more than 30 billion heads towards education. We've seen firsthand what little impact it really is making. What's going wrong there?
Well, so many things are going wrong with the education system. First, there is no synchronization of the education system with South Africa's production system. If you look at the successful countries like South Korea, like Germany, there's a very close relationship between the production system and the education system. In South Africa, we inherited the British public schools kind of system where education was more a sort of a leisure activity for the upper class and for the hugely talented people. I was in Germany about a year or so ago visiting Volkswagen. There's a very close relationship between the state, where Volkswagen is, the education system of the state, Volkswagen itself, other companies like bread manufacturers, in the training and the education of the whole labor force. This is one of the core problems we have in South Africa. For example, your TVET colleges, you can't have people being trained without the technology that they are going to use when they graduate. In Germany, if you are being trained in the automobile industry, you have to work with the robots. You have to be trained with the robots that you are going to actually use when you graduate from your training program. So this is one of our big problems. Of course, there is the issue of the relationship between the ruling party and the unions. This is one of the dynamics that is also means that there's very poor control by the state over the teachers. And you can go on and on about and then the investment. A great deal of that investment that you've talked about, expenditure that is made every year, goes to salaries rather than to laboratories and so on and so forth, to infrastructure. As you know, we have a whole lot of schools that shouldn't be, that are not up to standard in terms of their construction. So there are many problems.
I mean, you think that's obviously a big election issue, so that some sort of focus on this would happen. I mean, I was hearing that in Limpopo they say it's going to take 14 years to get rid of pit latrines. So we're struggling to deal with education. Let's look at the Ingonyama Trust. I mean, you know, there are problems there. They're missing millions. You know, the books are apparently not clean. Why is this not being tackled?
Well, again, it's partly to do with the history, but essentially the relationship between the traditional leaders and the ANC government is a very complex relationship. In fact, we were discussing this with the Premier while waiting to come. The reality is that the political leadership, the ANC leadership, gives too many powers to the unelected traditional leaders because the traditional leaders help the ANC to be elected by the villagers and by the people in the rural community. Now, when I say help, it covers all range of being nice or to pressurizing the population. So that's why there's no movement in terms not just of Ingonyama Trust, but of the whole relationship between the Constitution, for example, and the traditional leaders, and the elected authorities in the provincial structures and the traditional leaders as well.
And you heard the Premier a little earlier on talking about the support for Jacob Zuma. I mean, is this something that needs to be addressed tomorrow? I mean, it's growing. You know, it's pretty clear now that those divisions that we've been hearing about and experiencing are live and well, and, you know, Jacob Zuma seems to be coming back?
Well, these are the internal ANC dynamics. I'm not sure. I think the state of the nation is about government, not about the ruling party's internal affairs. So I don't think that is a topic for the state of the nation address.
Okay, the address is around the state of the nation, the sort of conversations that are happening. What do you think it is as far as that is concerned? And, you know, I mean, Cyril Ramaphosa must be aware of what's happening within his own camp.
Oh, he's absolutely aware. I mean, he gets intelligence reports every day besides his own party reporting to him. The ANC has its own internal problems, and it's not really succeeding to manage them. And they cause problem for the government. It has, for example, this so-called tripartite alliance, which makes it difficult for the government to govern. We see, for example, with South African Airways, the one minister is pulling one way, another one another way, the Communist Party a third way. So all of these people, all these dynamics and these interrelationships that the ANC has, at the end of the day, paralyze it as a government.
Mr. Mbeki, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Well, let's take a quick look at the markets now.